Hey, welcome to the Razzle Dazzle Show, a podcast where we talk about our favorite video games and all things pop culture with an emphasis on our favorites. I'm your host, Jared, and our guest today is Trevor Youngquist. Trevor's the lead programmer and co-founder of Squid Studios, the team behind Bo, Path of the Teal Lotus, which launched on July 18th on Steam, Nintendo Switch, PS5, and the Xbox Series. Originally from Oregon, he's been living in Chiang Mai, Thailand since 2017. In addition to his work in game development, he's passionate about programming, a devoted NFL fan, and currently obsessed with roguelike games and chess. Please let us know what you think about this episode somewhere on the internet. Be sure to follow us on our socials and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Links to them are down below. And with all that being said,
it's Razzle Dazzle time.
Hello, Trevor. Thank you so much for being on the show. I'm super excited about this. How are you today?
I'm doing awesome today. How are you?
If I was doing any better, I'd have to hire somebody to help me enjoy it. Thank you for asking. So a quick Kickstarter question. I actually just came up with a second one, but I'll start off with the one I have written down. Very simple. What's your favorite flower?
Oh man, I think probably a white rose. Because it's like, you know, it's like a very generic answer, right? To say, oh, it's a rose, but you know, a white rose, it kind of turns the tables a bit.
Yeah, a little extra
twist. It doesn't
twist.
look like a rose, but it's still a rose.
Understood. So you're more of a coffee person, not a tea person?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not even close in my opinion. Like coffee is just way superior than tea. Although I do enjoy tea. Like if I want, I don't know, maybe if it's, let's say later in the day and I don't want to be like all jittery, then I might bust out a tea if I need like a little boost. But other than that, coffee is just superior.
Understood. Do you know if Chris has a preference?
I don't know. From what I understand, I think he enjoys tea he definitely enjoys tea more than I do. I don't know. I think he likes them both equally.
Understood. Okay. Listeners, that will make sense in a moment, but before we get to the tea and flower talk, let's start at the beginning. Can you tell us, where did you grow up and how would you describe the musical background of your childhood?
Sure. I grew up in Salem, Oregon, and yeah, I describe my I would describe my childhood as, you know, pretty average. You know, nothing really bad happened. Nothing super special happened. I had great parents. But there was a time when I was really into music, and that was actually my core focus in life. I'd say when I was in the 6th grade, so I forget what age that was, maybe like 12 or 11. I took like a percussion class at my school, and it was just supposed to be like a bullshit elective. Like I just took it because I thought it was going to be an easy A.
Right.
Really. And then I just immediately, it just clicked with me. I don't know why. You know, we just started, like in the class, you just got this like really cheap drum pad, and then it's basically like you're practicing like snare drum, you know, like exercises and rudiments and stuff like that, and yeah, it just clicked with me immediately. I have no idea why. And like, you know, the first term I went from beginner, and then in the second term of the same year I went from there to the advanced band of our school, because I just took it really seriously. I loved it, and drums were my love basically ever since I got into college.
Do you still play?
Yeah. I don't play anymore. I don't really have much of a desire to play drums specifically. When I got into high school, though, I got really into the vibraphone, because like I played in our jazz band, and for some reason they were just looking for a vibraphonist. And you know, since you're in school band, you practice, you know, like on the xylophone and marimba.
Oh, I see.
I was like, I was kind of familiar. Like I could read, you know, basic sheet music. I could read notes. I knew all the scales. So I just said, yeah, sure, I'll play the vibraphone. And then I got immediately addicted to that. And then like, yeah, the last 2 years of my high school, yeah, I was just so addicted to the vibraphone. I loved it.
So you're more a percussionist then than anything?
Yeah. I'm 100%.
Gotcha.
A percussionist. And there was actually a time too where I wanted to go to school for music. I don't know. I don't know if we can if we should get into it, because it's kind of like a long story how I ended up not going into music school.
We can get into it as much as you feel comfortable with.
All right, cool. Let's get into it then. All right, so I'm going to preface this by saying that by the time I wanted to go to music school, I specifically wanted to go to the Herberger Music School at Arizona State University.
Mm-hmm.
I actually don't remember why I wanted to go to Arizona State so much. Maybe it's just like the whole like desert aesthetic. I'm not sure. But
Sure,
Herberger, at least at the time, I'm not sure about now. It was like, I think top 10 music schools in the country, or at least top 20 definitely. And I wanted to go there to be like an orchestral percussionist, like specifically with the timpani. Because at that time, I basically had like dual passions. I had the vibraphone for jazz, and then the timpani for like symphony or orchestral percussion. And then when I got there, so by the time I applied to that school, they invited me to go and do like an interview and like a tryout. So like I studied for months and months their tryout music. I knew it. Like I could close my eyes and play it. Like I knew it so well. And then when I got to the tryouts, for whatever reason, like my hands just couldn't work. Like, for example, there's this section in the tryout where I had to do like, it wasn't the hardest snare drum. I don't even know what I don't even think it's like some kind of solo piece for the snare drum.
Sure, yeah.
And like, it's like nothing I haven't played before. It was because I was also used to playing in our school's drum line. So like my drumming chops were like quite good at that time. And dude, for whatever reason, I couldn't roll on the drum. Like my hands just froze up. I couldn't play anything. It was so strange because like I've done a lot of tryouts before, and I made like all city and all state in our, in the state of Oregon. And like I've never experienced that. I've never froze up that hard during a tryout before. It was actually really strange. And I don't know if it was nerves. Maybe it was objectively nerves. It was something. Like I'm not spiritual by any means, but it was almost like the universe telling me like, hey, this isn't your path. That like in hindsight, that's what it seemed like. And yeah, of course I failed the tryout, but I was just so confused and a little depressed after that. Because like up until that point, like music was, or percussion was like, that was my life. And I spent my entire free time basically around that. And yeah, I just decided to not pursue it. And I actually don't regret that decision at all.
Happy accidents, huh?
Yeah, it was a strange happy accident, and it's like I have nothing against percussion.
Right.
Like I don't have a personal vendetta against it, but like, it just wasn't like, just purely in hindsight, I'm just glad that I didn't go down that route because I found a much more fulfilling career.
Yeah, it's almost like the universe was just saying, hey man, maybe this isn't the thing for you. You love it, you like it, that's great. You'll find something better. Just keep going.
Yeah.
I like that, man. I consider myself a musician as well. Not a good one, but I play some instruments. I know how to play the saxophone, the ocarina, and I'm teaching myself the bass. And music for the longest time, just playing it has been ruined for me because I got into high school band. Because like before I got to high school band, I was being taught how to play the saxophone by a saxophonist who was in a band that my stepdad, who's an audio engineer, was producing. He was producing this band, and the saxophone player was teaching me how to play, and I loved it. It was a mix of watching the Muppets and Zoots from the Electric Mayhem, and like being exposed to like this funk ska band and with a lot of sax. Right, I just wanted to get into it, and I absolutely loved the way he was teaching me how to play. Like, music is emotional, it's expressive, when you play from your heart and stuff, and of course I did that. This is my first introduction to how to do music at all. So yeah, of course that's like that's like my foundation for it. And then when I got into high school band, it was expected for it to be like more structured, I guess, right? Like you have to do this, and this to learn what you need to learn, like learning how to read sheet music or whatever, right? Learning certain pieces. And I understand that, and that's fine. But being taught originally like it's okay to be expressive. Whenever I try to do that, like on the downtime when we're not like actively doing a lesson or whatever, we're just taking breaks, we're just messing around, like for maybe like 20 minutes at a time between classes or whatever, I would get told by the teacher and like by the head of the band or whatever, like the leadership for the band or whatever, like, you can't do that. You have to play exactly and only the thing that's on your sheet music for the next concert. And that didn't vibe with me, because again, I was taught to be expressive and like, that's okay. So just hearing that for like an entire school year is just kind of messed my groove with music. And until like years later, like a couple years ago, I just decided, no, I should get back into it. So it's not the same type of story. No, I'm just trying to relate that, like, yeah, it's music, having a weird relationship with music and it's just stopping all of a sudden is just like, it's weird to not only get back to, but it's weird and hard to let go, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally understand. It probably also comes with the territory of, because like, I'm sure that honestly kind of sounds like that your band teacher was kind of a Scrooge, and like
she was.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like the best experience. But kind of like add to that too, it kind of comes with the territory of high school band that like unless you're in the jazz band, you're doing like very structured classical type of stuff, which like, like they just take it from random ass composers, and like the composers, they want like, they want it to sound like in a very particular way. So it's like you have to do it kind of one way.
Yeah.
So, and I'm sure, yeah, like coming from an environment where like that's not the case, I'm sure that was disappointing.
Yeah, it was. But I guess in a similar sense, like not pursuing music led some stuff open for me to do what I'm doing now. Not necessarily just this show, right? But like, I graduated with a journalism degree. I'm a producer, audio engineer, social media manager for an NPR PBS radio station, So like everything happens for a reason. Happy accidents.
Yeah.
What kind of music did you grow up listening to?
Oh, that's you're going to be kind of shocked. I'm not sure how you're going to react to this. So my very first love, I have no idea why, dude. It was Rob Zombie when I was like, oh my God, way too young to be listening to that kind of music. Like probably, I want to say like not even 10 years old, dude. And I have no idea why. I think my parents were equally as
shocked,
confused, and probably horrified.
Right.
I don't know why. Like I just found his sound to be really interesting. And that was like the first artist that I really remember like, yeah, I want to play this guy's music in the car right now. Or, I want to get like a CD. Because, back then we had like CDs. So it's like, I want to get a CD of Rob Zombie. I don't know. It was just, yeah. His sound was just very interesting to me.
Unique, at least.
Yeah, very unique.
Yeah.
Very unique.
So was there any overlap with like listening to Rob Zombie and like, you wanted to learn how to play some of his songs or anything, like on the drums or anything? Is there any overlap there?
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay, great.
Yeah. Not at all, dude. I think, I'm trying to think of like the first artist where I wanted to emulate. It probably wasn't until I got into jazz when that started to happen. Like, if I'm being honest. Yeah, maybe there is, well, I guess, since I was a drummer, like I was listening to, like Buddy Rich and like, some of like the typical legendary jazz drummers. But it wasn't until I got really fascinated with the vibraphone where I'm like actively looking out for famous vibraphone artists. And I'm like, oh, I want to play this shit. And then I'd start emulating that. So I guess that was quite late in my music career.
Do you remember the first physical music you've owned that was yours? Or is it the Rob Zombie CD?
So what do you mean physical music? Do you mean like sheet music or like a CD or...
Wow. I think you're the first person to think about sheet music in that regard, which is awesome and very interesting. No, what I mean is like first CD, first vinyl, first cassette. Like what was the first physical form of media that you've owned that was yours that, you bought with your own money?
That would have to be... I can't confirm if this is the first,
Right.
but it's definitely the one that I remember first, which is one of Linkin Park CDs. It was I forget the name, but it's the one where like someone's graffitiing on a wall with like a gas mask or whatever.
Sure.
Or whatever they use for spray paints. Like I think it starts with an M. I'm not sure, but it's like a Linkin Park CD. I remember very vividly buying that and getting very excited about it.
So this next question requires a bit of context, right? So please bear with me. As I mentioned, I am a producer and audio engineer at a WGCU, an NPR PBS radio station in Southwest Florida. And we have this other show called 3 Song Stories where we tell people's biography through music. So what I mean by that is the guest comes in, they pick 3 songs that every time they listen to these songs, they immediately get transported back to a time and place that they have a significant story associated with it. It could be funny, it could be serious, it could be like super important to their lives, or it could be just a fun anecdote. I want to ask you off the top of your head, do you have one song story you're willing to share?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's the song 500 Miles.
Okay.
Yeah, do you know the song 500? It's like a folk song.
Of course I do, yes.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure if the true meaning of that song really applies to me, but I first heard it in the movie Inside Llewyn Davis, which I love. Have you seen Inside Llewyn Davis?
I have not.
Oh, dude, that movie's the shit. I highly recommend Inside Llewyn Davis.
Okay.
I'm actually going to watch it again probably this week. Now that I think about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that song, it's basically, what is it about? It's about like someone who leaves. It has like the sense that you're a traveler and you're far away from home.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to a certain point to where like when you're off in your travels, you're basically like disappointed where you are in life, or you don't have enough money and you're kind of ashamed to come back home, even though you're so far away. Now, the ashamed part does not apply to me, but like the kind of like solo journey vibe of that song really resonates with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's been like a common theme throughout my whole life, because I've always been like a huge introvert. Like just as an example, like with my childhood, like I have an older brother who's like one of the most extroverted people you can imagine. Like he just needs to be around people, and he's super loud and obnoxious. And like I was the complete opposite of that. So like one example is like as a way for my parents to punish me for like doing something bad, is I would love to spend time in my room alone, and they would actually force me to stay out there with them.
Oh no!
And then I would cry. And this is a true story, because like at first, you know, like a typical parent, like you know, your child would do something naughty, and you'd say, "Oh, go to your room," and like I would fake to be like, "Oh man," and then I'd go into my room, and then I just wouldn't come back out, and then my parents would be like, "Where's Trevor? Like, why isn't he out here?" And then I would just stay in there for hours just playing with toys or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, their new punishment was to keep me in front of people, and that worked very effectively.
You have no idea how much I relate to that. Oh my God, because some of the earliest memories of like the first house or apartment I lived in was with just my mom and I and like some roommates that she had. And I had my own room. She had her room. Like it was a 3-bedroom apartment, and I had my own room. And this was like one of the only times in my life where I actually have a room. And yeah, I remember being grounded sometimes, and it's between these two, getting sent to the corner of like the kitchen, and I just, you know, have to like sit there and think about what I did or whatever. Or I would get sent to my room, and whenever that happened, I'm like, okay, great. You said no TV, no video games? All right, I'm going to open my drawer of like 100 Transformers and play. So that wasn't an issue. But after I was 5, I think, it was around there, my mom met my stepdad, who, you know, current stepdad, and we eventually moved from that 3-bedroom apartment to his 1-bedroom condominium. So I spent almost like my entire life at this point, from 5 to like 20 something. Oh my God. Yeah. 20, 21, something around there. 5 years old to 20 years old, in like the living room of this one bedroom apartment. I didn't have a room for all that time, for 15 years. And all like the closest thing I had to it was a bunk bed, but like only with the top bunk and the bottom is like cleared. So I had like a desk, right? That's it. That was my air quotes room for this amount of time. So whenever I got grounded, I was still go to your room. I'm still in the living room with all of you. Worst punishment. Hated it. Hated every second. So I relate so much to that. Lord, I'm 500 miles. How does that song fit into your life today?
How it fits in today is, I just kind of feel, I feel like on my own completely, but like in a good way, like very independent. And I kind of pride myself in being a very independent person, because like all my family, they still don't know why, like they don't understand why I'm still here.
Right.
in Thailand. Like they just don't get it. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's really hard to describe. Yeah, like I have like a kid here, and I'm taking, like I have a 5-year-old daughter with, my partner who I met here, and I'm just kind of here in this little island on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
Doing my thing. And the song just it just resonates with me. It's one of those things where it's really hard to articulate.
That's fine.
It's just like it's more like an emotional feeling.
Yeah, I get that. No, I love it. On that note, let's get into your career and ultimately why you decided to move to Thailand from Oregon. Did you have any video games growing up in your household?
Yeah. Although the thing is like I wouldn't consider myself a gamer before. Like I think that came quite late in my life to like when I would consider myself a gamer. It was probably like right before Bo, or even during Bo, to be honest, because it just kind of comes with the territory. Really, it's like if you're making games, then of course you need to study the grades. You need to see why good games are good.
Right.
And to do that, you just have to play a lot of games. And then I just ended up really enjoying it. Yeah, when I was a child, I wouldn't consider myself a gamer, but I definitely did play a lot of PlayStation, like the first PlayStation and PlayStation 2. Yeah, PlayStation in general just has a very special heart in my place, because like that's kind of where I like lost my gaming innocence.
Right.
In a way. I think the first game that I was really addicted to was the Ratchet and Clank series.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and still to this day, I really like that series. I think it's a very well designed game, good idea, good setting, good mechanics, and that kind of blew me away when I was a child. As for the other games, I guess like I wasn't really. Oh, I also really liked Twisted Metal. That I'm trying to think of like my first gaming loves.
Yeah.
And it would definitely have to be like the Twisted Metal series and Ratchet and Clank series.
Wow.
For sure, on PlayStation. And then when I got into high school, I got some more into like first-person shooter kind of games. Like I did get into Call of Duty a little bit, like the first Modern Warfare. I really loved Killzone, that game. Have you heard of Killzone before?
I have not.
It's very interesting. Like I recommend the second Killzone, so Killzone 2. It just looks really cool. It looks like a really, really good game, and it's really fun and interesting. And then Fallout. I was highly addicted to Fallout 3 when it came out when I was in high school. And then after that, like I wasn't too much into games for a long time, really, until I came to Thailand. And then what kind of kick-started my, like, when I would consider myself a gamer was when I got Civilization 5.
Interesting.
Yeah, it seems really random, but it's like I for whatever reason, I was just really interested in playing Civilization, and I became so addicted to Civilization 5. Like, to the point where I've never become that addicted to a video game before. And then after there, it just kind of snowballed. And then, at around that time, Chris and I were starting to work on Bo. And then, it just went from there.
Okay, and well, now let's dive into you moving to Thailand and starting Squid Shock. So what initially drew you to programming and game development first, were there any specific moments that has influenced that career path? I mean, clearly you didn't stick with drumming, so how did you land that trajectory?
So with programming, that's actually directly tied to my daughter. Because like at the time, so I had my daughter here in Thailand, and that's like, well, that's like a long story in itself. But basically, just to sum it up, that was a very stressful time, to put it lightly. And she wasn't even born yet, but I was already thinking like, because I decided to stay here and help take care of her. And I just thought to myself, because like I was teaching English at the time, to stay here. And I was thinking like, all right, well, you know, teaching English, it's always going to be special to me because that's what allowed me to stay here long term. But it's not something that I want to do for the rest of my life, is teach English. So I'm just thinking like, you know, what options do I have? Purely for, like financial reasons, and also just like quality of life, like what I would enjoy doing. And people kept on telling me, like, you know, I would make some friends here, and a lot of them were like these, what we call digital nomads.
Okay.
That basically like they travel from like country to country, usually software related, or I mean actually strictly software related. It's digital nomad. And a lot of them were programmers. I made some friends here, and they would say to me from time to time like, hey, you would actually make a really good programmer. And I dismissed it because I thought like, oh, you had to be like a super autistic, like 500 IQ to like be good at programming, you know? And I think most people, like, they probably don't share that extreme opinion, but it's like similar to those same lines. Like, I feel like that's a common thing that people think about programmers. It's like, oh, you have to have a certain threshold of intelligence to be successful. And I thought I didn't have that. I'm like, oh, that doesn't really, I would kind of poo-poo it. And then when my daughter was born, I thought back to that. And I'm like, here, you know, maybe I should just give it a try, and like zero expectations. So I just got like a random textbook online for this programming language called Python, which, you know, I did some research before too, and saying that like that's a really good one to get started if you want to start programming, is learning Python. And I'm like, all right, I'll just give it a try, no expectations. And then when I tried it, like literally within the first week, I was hooked. For whatever reason, it just really gelled with my introverted personality,
Right.
you know, and it's like constantly solving a puzzle.
Yeah.
Every time you pop open your computer, you're solving a problem. And then like in real time, you get to see that problem being solved. And it's like you also tell the computer to do something, which to me at the time was a really foreign idea to me. Like, oh, I can just type in some commands and the computer does exactly what I say it does.
Yeah.
This is awesome. And it made it even more awesome. Like the more I would program, the more I understood exactly what I was doing. And then I could start getting creative with the code. And I could start kind of branching off from the textbook and start doing my own thing. And like, hey, I'm going to make this project, but I already know how to set it up. So I'm going to set it up without any help. And then just like little by little, it just got really addicting for me. And the fact that it happens to be a lucrative profession, that was kind of like the cherry on top.
Right. Oh man, that's awesome. And yeah, I completely understand that, you know, how you could get lost into it. And I feel the same way about audio editing or just producing in general, right? Like when I first started this show, like 5 years ago now, God, I knew nothing about how to edit anything, right? I grew up in a studio basically, like since I was 5, right? But I never really had my hands on the editing software. So once I started like making this show and getting into it and then learning about how editing is, you know, like this was during the pandemic, right? Like we started this show a few months before the pandemic hit the States. And while we were isolated, like that really gave me time to like learn how to edit our episodes because, you know, we were trying to record remotely and stuff, you know, and trying to make sure that works. But like we were trying to make a backlog, and I was helping out my primary editor at the time, you know, to lighten the load, right? And I was just teaching myself how to do simple basic editing, and man, it sucked so much. Like in terms of the quality of the final product, it sucks so much compared, like listening back. But in these 5 years, and like, you know, being here at this radio station, I've learned so much, and I just found like you said, there's always a problem to solve like in terms of editing. Like, oh my God, how do I say this? Whenever there is a piece of audio that I got to edit down, I'm trying to look for all the bits that needs to be removed or changed to make it sound natural and free-flowing as much as possible, other than like just a raw take, right? But of course, even with the raw takes, there are like, you know, little breaths or like mouth sounds or whatever you got to take out, you know, spacing, whatever. So there's always something, and for some reason, I find it fun. It's incredibly time-consuming. You can totally get lost in it, and it requires all your attention. But like, it's so much fun, and at the end, like once you're done, there's that feeling of satisfaction of like, I made this thing that kind of sounded like garbage into something that doesn't, and that's awesome. It's listenable, like it's audible, right? And it's a lot of fun. So I really can relate, at least on this side, about what you were saying about programming. So that's awesome, man. I'm really happy you found it.
Yeah, it seems like there's definitely a lot of parallels between like editing and programming. There's always a problem to be solved.
Yeah.
And yeah, you gotta,
There's a million ways to solve it. There's a million ways to do the same thing too, you know, and that's great because you have like an almost infinite toolkit to help you solve whatever issues that you're coming across. And that's incredible.
Right. And actually, to piggyback off of what you just said, like that's also kind of a downside to programming. Although nowadays, you know, since I feel pretty confident in my programming skills at this point, at least when it comes to video game programming.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's like a million different ways to do the same thing. And it can, like when you're starting out, it can be very overwhelming and very intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I'm not sure if it's like the same thing with editing, but like, you know, you go on like these forums, if you need to do Y, well, you can do X to do Y, but you can also do C to do Y, or you can do X and C to do Y.
Yeah.
Or do X, C, and Z to do a variation of Y that ultimately gets you to Y. And it's like, you know, like there's different forms like, I'm not sure if you've heard of Stack Overflow.
No.
Oh, okay. So it's like a popular like programming forum that people go to for help.
Mm-hmm.
And like there's like, for one, like the suggestions they give you, like they're all different. And as some programmers are also very arrogant and nasty on that forum. So they kind of like grill you if you like ask for help.
Like, and you don't know how to do this simple thing? Like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, exactly. And there's like a million different ways to do the same thing. And if you try one way, of course it doesn't work. It never works the first time. Yeah. And then you go back and you're like, oh shit. So
short answer, yes, that is exactly how editing works. Because as a producer at a radio station, we get like, we're hiring a lot of people that are from print or from TV, right? And they don't necessarily know how to use audio editing software, right? At least not to the full extent, or at least not to like how we want them to, right? So there's plenty of times, almost daily, where I have to show someone like how to do a thing, like how do you save this type of file, and like what buttons do I need to press? And then I'm like, well, you can do this, or you can do this, which is our preferred way, but if you're in a tight crunch, you can just do this quick shortcut key command or whatever, you know? So yeah, I totally understand what you're saying, and I feel for that. So now we know how you got into programming. I want to know how Squid Shock Studios came to be, moving from Oregon to Thailand to learning programming from teaching English, which is also awesome, by the way. Why did you decide to start up a indie studio, and, you know, like, why that of all things?
Yeah, so how that happened was, well, first and foremost, Chris and I, he's the other co-founder of Squid Studios, and he's basically like the CEO, for lack of a better term, of Squid Studios.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess if you were to give me a label, it would be CTO, I suppose.
Okay.
But yeah, since we primarily do just video games, though, I'm definitely just the lead programmer. But how Squid started was we were still really good friends at the time, and this was during COVID. So Squid started during COVID. And Chris, from what I understand, he had this plan of but before COVID hit, he was in a place in his life where like he was still really into photography at the time, like travel photography. And he's really talented at that, by the way.
Yes, I've seen his pictures, and man, they are gorgeous.
Yeah, he's amazing at photography. And he had this plan of like traveling all throughout Southeast Asia, and I think like in other places as well. Like he had some big plans to kind of go all in on travel photography, from what I understand. But basically COVID completely squashed that for him. And then, at the same time, COVID also, it f***ed everything up. So it's like I wasn't getting as much work as an English teacher. And I was still, I was a little bit more competent in programming at the time because this was, I'd say, 2 or 3 years from when I started programming. And I was programming every day and working on my own projects, but I wasn't getting paid for anything.
Right.
So yeah, like I felt pretty competent in programming at that time. And we were just hanging out one day and we're like, hey, we should make a mobile game. And we're both like, well, we have nothing else better to do. So, why not? And it might make money in the meantime, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, whatever. So we started on our first game, which is called Foxphrase. And it's like a mobile word play game. And yeah, that took us a while to develop, and we had a lot of fun doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And while we were polishing up Foxphrase, Chris was, like, unbeknownst to me, actually working on this idea he had, which he called Bow. And I actually didn't really know much about it at first. And then by the time he finally showed it to me, like he took some classes from Thomas Brush, like doing some very basic programming and getting used to Unity. And then by the time he showed me, he was actually working on it for maybe 2 months, I want to say. And dude, it was in rough shape. But like he showed me this idea, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I like the character, and yeah, it seemed like a fun idea. And we just talked about it, and we were like, hey, let's just make this a Squid thing, because he was having a lot of trouble with the programming aspect of it. Like he would get some things online and he would know how to tweak certain things, but he didn't exactly know what was going on, and he didn't really know how to like get further. I'm sure he could. Like, he's a really smart guy. He'd be an excellent programmer. But it's like the amount of time necessary to do that, I think, was not appealing to him. So he came to me, and then we talked about it, and we're like, yeah, let's just make this an official Squid project. So that's how I came on board. And yeah, that's how Bow was created. And Squid.
That's so cool. Yeah, I love hearing both sides of the same story. That it really helps flesh it out. Oh man, I love it. And yeah, we're finally gonna talk about Bo, that little guy. Very happy I got him too, by the way.
I just noticed it's right there.
Yeah. So, what were some of the most complex or technical challenges you faced during development, and how did you overcome them?
So there's like a few different ways I can go about this. Like, I'd say first and foremost, the biggest challenge for me personally was like, I'd say like I was starting to get competent at programming after doing it for, I don't know, I want to say like 3 years, and definitely working on the mobile game helped. But I was still very much in learning mode while working on Bow. So it's like, we really wanted to make a specific feeling game, a very good game, but at the same time, I was still learning, ultimately, still learning how to program efficiently. So just that in itself was a challenge. But as for the specific challenges, let's see, there were a bunch. I'd say there's 2 that are fresh in my mind. I'm sure there's a lot that I'm missing.
Right.
The 2 that's fresh in my mind this is a very specific one, which was our boss system. And this also kind of ties into what I'm most proud of programming wise on Bow, which is, first of all, a way to scale the boss system. I'm really proud how I did that, but it was very difficult to do. Because, you know, with bosses, it's like they all have their own unique behaviors, but at the same time, they share universal values, right? And universal functions. So like each boss, you know, shows a little title card. Each boss has health. Each boss, you know, they have phases. So it's like I had to program, you know, all that universally for the bosses, scale it up so we can kind of pump these out, but at the same time make them unique enough to where like they all didn't feel the same, and that like I didn't have to redo what I did for one boss for another boss and stuff like that.
Right.
And the thing that I'm most proud of Bo, and that was also one of the most challenging parts, was the Tango duo fight and the Dai Tango fight.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm guessing you played the game already.
Oh, of course.
Well, I mean, you've obviously played the game already.
Multiple times. Multiple times.
So like in the Tengu Duo fight and the Dai Tengu fight, there's multiple boss controllers going on in the same room.
Yeah.
And for me, that was, it was really challenging to do for one thing, but I'm just super proud of how it came out. I mean, I could go into the nitty gritty of it, but I think it's kind of self-explanatory. It's like if you have two, and then with the Dai Tengu fight, 3 bosses in the same room, you can kind of imagine how much of a cluster that ends up being.
Yeah.
In development. Yeah. And I'm just really proud of how we came out of that. And they're also the funnest bosses, in my opinion, in the whole game. So it's like the cherry on top. And then, yeah, as for the other very specific challenge, I actually have another challenge that I just thought of right now. But the other specific challenge came out actually post-release. And even like in late beta stages, I kind of saw what was about to happen, which is that like on PC, on consoles, you don't have this problem as much. But on PC, people will play your game with a near infinite amount of devices as a controller, and a near infinite amount of different monitors, which like, you know, it's our first game, so it's kind of new territory for us. But it's like how like there's some players that just play with like a pure, just like an arcade style joystick I've seen.
Yeah.
Like a joystick. It's like how
for
the
fighting
fuck
games
do
or
I
something.
even,
yeah.
Like how do I even approach that? Like how do I make the correct input icons? How do I even it was just so confusing. And like there's like specific computer settings that like override like, so as an example of that, with I forget how to pronounce it, NVIDIA. I actually have this on my computer, so it's like NVIDIA.
Yeah, NVIDIA.
Okay, NVIDIA. Yeah. So they have the specific setting that actually overrides VSync to a game. Which is nuts to me. But like we didn't know that at first. So I can't recall if this happened on release or if it happened during beta, but like, you know, we spent a lot of time, there's like this crunchy period, we worked really hard on the game, we finally showed it to players, and then like half the players couldn't even open the game. Like it would just crash immediately.
Whoa.
And we're like, what the f-? And what ended up happening was NVIDIA would override the VSync settings, and for whatever reason, due to the configuration of our Unity settings, I guess, I still don't completely understand. It just would not play like the opening splash screens.
Right.
And therefore would not continue with the game. And it would just be like a forever black screen. Or sometimes it would just crash.
Right.
And yeah, that's like a certain challenge that was very frustrating.
I'm sure, yeah.
And honestly, I'm not really sure how you can avoid that. Like, I think I can definitely tackle it in a better way now that like in future projects, now that I know that that's a thing. But yeah, just like with how modern gaming is now, though, like, I don't see how you can avoid moments like that.
Right. Of course you don't want that to happen because you want people to play your games. Like,
yeah.
That's crazy, man. Wow.
Yeah, and as for like one more challenge that I just thought of now is like as a programmer, I really underestimated the power of making everything modular. Like when you make a new object or a new component. So what I mean by modular is you can basically take one object and then you could place it anywhere you want in the game. You can change it however much you want in the code, and it doesn't change anything else. So it's kind of like you can plug and play a feature, you can plug and play an object, you can plug and play a boss,
Right.
or even like a specific room. It's like what happens in one place should not affect any other place.
Gotcha. Right.
It's like obviously you can't make that 100% the case just with the nature of games, but like you can try to mitigate that as much as possible. So it's like if I change Bo's jumping mechanic, in theory that should not affect whatsoever like the mochi mallet ability or the dash ability.
Mm-hmm.
But early on that was the case, and it was a complete headache that I caused for myself. And it's like you would think like it's kind of hard to like for anyone who doesn't do like game program, it's kind of hard to, because it seems self-explanatory. It's like, well, yeah, just separate the jump and the dash, or like separate this and that. But like when you're in the thick of things and trying to pump something out, things just inevitably intertwine with each other, and if you're not careful, that can really spell doom for you.
Yeah.
And really mess some things up. So that was a big challenge at first, and now I feel very confident in my abilities to make things modular and not to complicate things and intertwine things too much.
Right. Yeah. And it is clear to say, it's clear as night and day, that all your hard work with programming this game has made this, like, I have not stopped talking and singing Bo's praises since I've played this game on this show, right? Of course, talking to Chris, to Moy, to Alex, and I'm going to do it to you. Sorry, not sorry. But this game that you've made is, in my opinion, a complete masterpiece. I think it is 100% perfect, regardless of whatever flaws you may see. I think, regardless of all of that, it is everything that I want out of a video game. So in Chris and Alex's episode, I talked heavily about the art style, right, of the game, how the designs and everything, because it's hand drawn, and that's like one of the things that I love the most about a video game, because like that's already a winning factor in my book for if I'm gonna like a game or not. And with Moy, of course, I talked about the music, and man, he is a mastermind. And now since I have you on the show, this is a great way for me to talk about the actual mechanics. And man, I love how absolutely tight everything feels. Like calling this, basing this on Hollow Knight and stuff, and I'm sure a lot of other indie games that are similar, a lot of other Metroidvanias, there's something so unique about every single mechanic. Like, yes, there's a dash, yes, there's a little pogo, but all the other new abilities that gives this game a lot of flavor, like the grapple, right? That is so much fun to use to zip through Midori Forest and stuff. And the Mochi Mallet, yeah, of course we want a ground pound, but like I absolutely love visually how that looks, but how heavy it feels too, and just the aerodynamics, the aerial combat of Bo, and how kind of floaty and light he feels, but it's like it's not too much to the sense of like I don't feel like I have control, and like if I'm gonna jump to a certain spot, I am fully confident that I'm able to do that right off the bat. Barely any adjustments made mid-air. There's so many different aspects about this game that I really try to dissect myself as a player, and I guess as a air quotes journalist, while doing research, right? I get to call playing your amazing perfect game research, man, and that's like beautiful for me. That's like all I want to ever do, right? But there's so many things about this game that makes it special, and it really shows that a lot of love and care has been put into this game by you and Chris and everybody else who's worked on it in every other aspect, and you guys have done an amazing job. Your work is awesome, man, and I really appreciate it, and I've had a lot of fun with it.
Thank you, man. As the programmer of the project, it like you'd be surprised how like as a programmer, when people comment on your programming, like 99% of the time, it's never a good thing. And that is kind of a downside of game programming, in my opinion, is like very rarely do people say like, oh my God, the programming on this game is phenomenal. It's like they just see a bug and they're like, oh, the programmer. Get new programmers. Like if you notice on the whole, if you actually are consciously aware of the programming of a game, it's usually not a good thing, right? Like if your game crashes, you're like, oh, It's a technical issue. Who's responsible? The technical team, you know? But it's like when you have like super smooth movement, people are rarely like, oh my God, the programming is exceptional. I bet they had the best code. It's like, yeah, so it feels really good for you to say that. And I appreciate you saying that.
Of course. And just to preface, like, I'm not just saying that just because you're on the show and I'm talking to you right now. No. This is actually genuinely how I feel. And I said this before even talking to Chris, like, on the show, that like this new game that I found, Bo, is so much fun, and this and that, blah blah blah. Again, I really haven't stopped singing his praises, on the show, off the show, online, like whatever. And you know, as a gamer, right, I try to do my best to look at every aspect that I can look at, or like that I know what to look for in a video game that I like, right, or don't like. Like, I really try to pay attention, you know, and not just for like my air quotes job here on the show because we talk about games, but just as a consumer, because something that's incredibly important to me that I've learned from Gerard Khalil, the completionist, is when you complete a game, because I consider myself a completionist at that, you know, like I like 100% in games. And a philosophy that I have learned from Gerard is that, you know, completing a game is not just about doing everything and just saying like, hey, I got the gold star, cool. It's more or less that you're seeing and going through every aspect of this game that the development team has poured hundreds upon thousands of hours into to make and to bring to you to enjoy. And yeah, and a lot of those aspects, or like some of the key aspects to what makes a video game great to me, is the visual style. Is not saying that visual style, not visuals, right? Like, I don't care if the thing is like realistic looking. I don't care if it's like cartoony or hyper stylized. Like, I don't care about that. I mean, I have my preferences, right? But I mean, like, does this work for this game? If that makes sense. Is the music good or not, you know, because I love to hear some catchy tunes in my video games. Does it feel nice to play? And for our purposes here in this conversation, like, that's a big one, right? If it's not fun to play, it doesn't matter how good it looks. It doesn't matter how good it sounds. I'm not going to want to play it. And of course, if I'm overall having fun, that's my important bit. Am I having fun? And every second of my first 18-hour, 19-hour playthrough, and of my extra playthroughs since then, maybe another 5 or 6, I have had fun every second. And a little tidbit about me, I don't like replaying games. I really don't, especially after I 100% them. I usually just do that, move on to the next one, and I don't touch that game until like for another few years. And Bo is different because I love replaying this game, even completing it over and over again. You know, I have this game on Steam. I have this game on PS5. I'm gonna get it for Switch. Already on PS5 and Steam, I have 100% save file, and I'm still trying to get the no coffee run and the no death run, and I haven't gotten it yet, but that just means I get to play more because it's fun, because it feels good, because the mechanics feel tight. And I'm ranting, right? I'm ranting about how much I love this game. But point is, I try to really pay attention to all the aspects, or as much the aspects of what makes a video game a video game. So yeah, I really want to just take the time and just tell you, like, you have done a phenomenal job with everything that has to do with programming or like the mechanics or whatever. I don't really know a lot about that type of stuff, but from what I've played, no issues, no notes. So yeah, thank you. Just thank you for making a great freaking game, man.
Well, thank you, man.
To move on with what I have. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry, right?
Good. I could listen to that all day, so no worries, man.
With Bo being a Metroidvanias themselves are known for intricate worlds, right? And how different areas connect to each other. In the programming sense, how was your approach to the game's level design and ensuring smooth transitions between areas? Or is that more like a team-up thing with you and Chris because of the designs of each area?
From a programming perspective, I think I can only speak for myself in this case, but from a programming perspective, a Metroidvania is extremely annoying to program. It is so annoying because, like, the whole, like, you can go, like, it's, I'd say Bow, it's probably more linear than a lot of other Metroidvanias, but you can still, sequence break and go back to past areas, and there's like a locks and keys elements to it. And yeah, from a programming perspective, that's very annoying because, like, you need to save the state of certain objects in specific rooms. And you need to really look out for sequence breaks where it's like, oh, if you get this ability, well, you're just gonna fly. Like, if you get the wall roll ability, for example,
Right.
there's a point in development where we had to go back to all the early areas and make sure that you don't just fly off the map completely. And we had to do that for every single room. And this was kind of late. I think this was definitely in the beta stage, like when we had like more players playing it, and we kept on getting messages like, hey, where's Bo? And they would send screenshots, and like Bo wasn't on the screen. And we're like, what the f-? Like, I don't know where he is. What'd you do? And it's like, oh, I just wall rolled off of this wall, and now I don't know where I am. So yeah, it turns out that you flew completely off the map, and you're like infinitely falling. So like, that's one aspect of a Metroidvania that's really annoying. Is like, yeah, you have all these cool abilities, but it's like that affects all the early areas in ways that you can't possibly comprehend until people actually start playing the game. And yeah, sequence breaks was a huge one too.
Yeah.
It's like there was a time, actually not too long ago, where you could completely skip one of the bosses. Like, and I'm not talking about Katsura. I'm talking about like a boss you're supposed to fight. I guess I could say the name of the boss now, like Jiragumo.
Oh.
The spider lady.
Yeah.
You could completely skip that boss, and we spent months on that boss. And yeah, we just found out like not too long ago you could completely skip her.
Wow.
And yeah, like things like that happen all the time.
I think it's crazy how, regardless of how much time you put into like finding every bug or finding every sequence break, whatever, no matter what, some are gonna slip right through, or some are gonna slip through once you already publish the game, and that's why, of course, there is beta testing to catch those. But luckily, you're able to patch things up even after post-launch, which, not too long ago that would have not been possible with video games because of the state of video games at the time, where it was just mainly hardware and not so accessible to do these patches. So yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and I'd even argue that like the amount of bugs that you encounter in a Metroidvania is probably double compared to like linear games.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if, I don't know, maybe roguelike. Like, I'm trying to think of like a genre of game in which you would encounter similar types of bugs, like through playing the game a lot. Because yeah, when you, like in a Metroidvania, when you interact with something for the first time, like in an early area, for example, you have a very specific set of abilities.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes no abilities, right?
Yeah.
Like in the very beginning. So you're meant to interact with these things with like no abilities or just one ability. Well, what happens when you come back and do the same thing?
Yeah.
With the Mochi Mallet? Or what happens when you have a bunch of Dharma or Omamori? It's like things get buggy and things change in a way that you don't really get with linear games.
Right.
Maybe roguelikes, but like, those are also linear to an extent. Like, it's not the same kind of design as a Metroidvania.
No, not at all.
Where it's supposed to be like the pillar of a Metroidvania is like, it's like anti-linear. It's like it's not really supposed to be linear, or else it wouldn't be a Metroidvania.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying with a Metroidvania. Like, I mean, that's why we don't have, at least as of recording, a new game plus with Bo, or for most Metroidvanias, right? Like, there's usually not a new game plus, because if you have all the tools right from the very beginning, kind of makes the rest of the game, like, or at least the first 50% of the game, just like trivial, I guess, and you can really subject yourself to sequence breaking.
Right. Yeah.
What do you enjoy most about working as an indie developer, I'm sure like compared to larger AAA studios, there's potentially more freedom to experiment with the game design.
Yeah, I definitely. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I can say that for all or not. Yeah, it. Yeah, for like, yeah, we objectively 100% have more freedom
Right.
than AAA studios because I stopped myself from saying all of them because just by the nature of being a AAA studio, right? You have like, man, sometimes thousands of people working on the game, and like just by default, you don't have enough freedom to do what you want. Like you just can't. Like you can't have thousands of people doing their own thing, doing their own experimentation. It would be a complete disaster if you did that. So yeah, with indie studios, yeah, just by the nature of having a very small team gives you a lot of freedom. And I'd say like one of the best parts from an efficiency standpoint, one of the best parts of working as an indie studio is precisely the small team, because you know exactly who is working on what, and people have a sense of accountability that I think you probably lack in AAA studios. So let's give an example of like a AAA studio. Let's say they have 40 programmers, which that's not unrealistic for some of these games, right?
Right.
Like sometimes they have more programmers. Okay, so you see a bug, right? Who the do you go to? Who do you know is responsible for creating that? Like, who's responsible for the feature in which that bug originated in?
Right.
How, like, you need a giant spreadsheet to keep track of that stuff. And we're all people. Like, people lie. People maybe put the blame on other people. And if you have a large team, you just don't. There's no way you can confirm that 100%. Unless you have like the most well-managed, like the best management system in the history of gaming, maybe you can make like certain, like exactly who's doing what at any given time. With an indie studio, that's not a problem at all. If there's a problem with an animation, or if an animation's too framey, Chris knows exactly who to go to.
Right.
And it's not even a question. And there's no lying. You can't lie. It's like, oh, this thing went wrong, and it's my, like, I think that is a very underlooked aspect of indie development, is the accountability.
Right.
And that increases the speed as well. It's like if you know exactly if something goes wrong, you know exactly who's responsible for that. You ping them and you say, hey, when can you fix it? Or are you having trouble? Like, what can we do?
Mm-hmm.
And that just makes everything go really fast.
That makes a lot of sense. And yeah, you're right. I've had quite a few indie developers here on the show, and yeah, I have yet until now had to talk about accountability when in that aspect. Very interesting. See, I love learning about this type of stuff, man. It's so cool.
Yeah, like if the jump completely breaks, what am I gonna do? Say, no, I didn't do that shit.
Right.
It's like like, what am I doing? It's like, I should just stop making games if I do that.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, with the AAA studio, you actually can do that. It's like people can lie and say like, oh, I didn't do that. And then you spend the whole day figuring out who did it. And, if you're in an indie studio, the time it took you to figure out who did it and how to solve it, it's already solved.
Yeah.
So that's one, that's a big positive of an indie studio.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Is there any bit of you in Bo at all? Like, did you insert any little bit of what makes, I don't know, like there's a character or a specific line, or like, I don't know. You're the programmer. You can have a lot of fun with it, I'm sure, if you really want to.
Oh yeah. Like at the end of the day, yeah, I'm the one who makes everything interactable, and everything you control, I've eventually touched. I think my biggest contribution to Bo is how the player controller feels. I've been very transparent to Chris too of how big of a fan I am of Celeste, and like I really wanted to emulate that for Bo, and of course he was on board with it. Like I don't think he even questioned it for a second. He's like, yeah, like the controller for Celeste is like unparalleled. It's like, yeah, let's make Bo feel similar-ish to Celeste while keeping Bo in its own style, but like the really snappy, it feels so good to dash and Celeste. I'd argue it feels really good to dash and Bo. Feels really good to move around in Hollow Knight and Ori and Celeste. So it's like, yeah, let's make things really snappy, super smooth. You know, if you want to do it, there's going to be absolutely zero input lag or sometimes zero cooldown. Like if you want to dash, but like you think at the last second, like, oh shit, I actually want to Mochi Mallet here. Well, you just do it. Absolutely zero hesitation, super snappy. So yeah, I'd say that's probably my biggest contribution to Bow is how the player controller feels.
Okay, I love it. And as I heavily ranted about earlier, it feels awesome. How do you continue to challenge yourself as a programmer and of course as one of the leading members of Squid Shocks? Are there any personal programming goals you're working on?
Yes. Like I told you before the show, like I'm kind of obsessed with roguelike games at the moment.
Yeah.
And like one thing in particular that I love about roguelike games is the procedural generation. I am so fascinated by that because like, man, yeah, like there's just so many things that seem to go into procedural generation. It's like how, like whatever algorithm or algorithms, right, you choose or develop for procedural generation, like how do you get a good output? Like how do you do that? How do you tell the computer what is a good level?
Right.
I think that is extremely difficult. That varies from game to game. You know, like just for the sake of this, like I know XCOM 2, it's not considered a roguelike, but it. Like it's definitely, it has heavy roguelike elements to it.
Right.
Have you played XCOM 2?
I haven't played it personally, but I know about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if anyone's into like strategy games, but also roguelikes, I highly recommend XCOM 2. It's really fun. But they procedurally generate their levels. So like every single level you play, it's completely different. And how they do it is they basically have a pool of a bunch of pre-made terrain, pre-made interactives in the environment, and they set it all up from scratch. Every single room's different. So you take a level from XCOM 2 and you compare it to a level of, let's say, like Dead Cells or Binding of Isaac.
Right.
They still use, or let's even use Into the Breach, which is one of my favorite games of all time. Like they all do procedural generation to some extent, but they all do it differently. But they still get the output of really fun levels that fits their game perfectly. And that is really fascinating to me. So I currently just want to learn. It's like like Chris and I were talking about for our next project to maybe use procedural generation, if not to use it in the real game, to at least like use it as a tool to pump out levels.
Right.
So so that we can just like, make our own tweaks to them.
Yeah.
But like it's not confirmed that we're going to use it, but we're just considering it. Yeah, procedural generation, that is what I'm most fascinated by right now.
Gotcha. Yeah. And yeah, like you said, there's multiple different ways of how a lot of different roguelikes do it. Either straight up from scratch and it's different every single time, or Elsie, what they do is there are like a handful of different rooms, and they are just randomly, they are in random order per area, if that makes sense. Like there's a dozen different rooms for area A, and each time there's gonna pick between 1 through 12 in a random order for the next like 6 screens or whatever, So yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do RNG, and yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that's a natural progression I would think it's a natural progression as a programmer to learn how to make a linear, not a linear, a game where there's a certain specific type of flow that also allows backtracking, right? A Metroidvania to then just go buck wild and just make random levels all the time. And yeah, no, that's a really cool thing. And yeah, I hope that goes well. And speaking of just making levels and being a programmer, does it get tiring as a gamer and as a programmer to just replay the same levels or just the same game? Like, do you ever get sick of Bow at all?
I'll be honest, yeah, because like I mean I've been working on, like Chris and I, we've been working on Bow for like for it seems like forever now.
Yeah.
So we're kind of excited for. I can't say what we have planned,
of course.
But yeah, we're excited to start exploring that at this point. And we still plan to update the game, of course, and to always improve the game.
Yeah.
But just like with any other game, there's going to be a point where we're like, all right, Bo's done.
Mhm.
There's nothing, like, we've did what we've wanted to do, or maybe there's like certain things we wanted to do in Bo, but we're like, hey, this would actually make sense to do in this project.
Right.
And it's kind of like we still, I can say that we still have plans for Bo, like this game, like future updates.
Yeah.
And future content. But it's slowly starting to get to that point where we're like, yeah, let's work on something else that gets us excited.
Of course. All right, well, now let's get into the speed round where I'm going to ask you a bunch of silly random questions and we're going to see how you do. You ready?
Yep.
All right. If you were the final boss in a video game, what would your title be?
Oh, Trevor the Overthinker.
And
off the top of my head.
Yeah, and what would your boss theme music be? And you can choose any song from anywhere.
Maybe like a heavy metal version of 500 Miles. So like a more intimidating version of that kind of slow, low masculine song,
Right. If you were a superhero, what would your name be? And follow up, what powers would you have?
Oh, my name? I guess Blaze?
Blaze.
But my superpowers would definitely, without a question, be flying, invincibility, and super speed.
Okay.
Because like with super speed, I think there's like an element of manipulating time, right? Because like you go so fast that, or at least in the movies, like you go so fast that like time seems to slow down. Well, it's like, what if you're actually not going faster, but you're just manipulating time around you, which maybe, no, actually, yeah, I don't know. It'd just be going super fast.
If you can live in the world of your favorite childhood show, movie, or game, which one would it be and why?
I think it'd be SpongeBob. Yeah. I don't know. They just seem like cool to hang out with.
Which character from your childhood favorite show, movie, or game would you most like to have as a friend in real life?
Maybe Patrick.
Okay.
Because he's so stupid, but like he just seems like he'd be really fun to hang out with.
Yeah.
Like super chill.
If you could attend any fictional event, for example, the Ewok celebration in Return of the Jedi, which one would it be and why?
I want to say something from Blade Runner. There's not really an event in Blade Runner, so this is probably a cop-out. But the world of the first Blade Runner, I think that world, it's like there's a reason why there's a huge cult following of that world of Blade Runner, because it is so immersive and it seems so interesting to be in. Any event going on in that world, I'd be down to go.
If Bo were to be in a Smash-like fighter, platform fighter, how would you see his moveset going?
I'd say definitely the bat ability. He can like bat people around like a baseball. Mochi Mallet. And then, yeah, a few Dharma.
Yeah.
I'd say like definitely Jingu. The Jingu, specifically the orbs, not necessarily the hand.
Yeah.
But just because I think that would just look really cool in a fighting game. Yeah. Yeah, off the top of my head, that's all I can think of. Yeah, the bat ability, the Mochi Mallet, and then some Dharma.
Understood. What would your 14-year-old self think of who you are today?
I think he would think that if my 14-year-old self looked at myself today, he'd think this person's very interesting. He has a very interesting journey. Yeah, because specifically like how I ended up coming to Thailand in the first place. It's like it's not normal. So like when I first came here, I was just planning to do a backpacking trip for 2 months. And at the time, I also quit my job and I moved out of my apartment when I decided to come here. So I had a ticket to come here and a ticket to come back. And I was planning on staying with my girlfriend that I had at the time at her place. And then, yeah, when I came to Thailand, I just decided to stay and not go on the return flight. And then basically all the choices that I've made up until now, I just think that my 14-year-old self would admire that. You'd think it's just a very interesting solo journey.
Do you still have that ticket, that return ticket? Or did you throw it away?
I think maybe. I think maybe it's somewhere. I can't recall throwing it away. That would be crazy if I threw that away in hindsight. I might have, like, out of like out of spite at first. I'm like, yeah, America, and then I just threw it away. Which like I don't hate America, by the way, but
Yeah.
it's just like my thinking at the time. Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm actually gonna look for that after this interview.
I think a subtle theme has been present here in this conversation is unexpected changes, right? But like for the better, like happy accidents, but like not necessarily they're accidents, right? Just like something stopped, but something else popped up. Pursue that, and it's for the better. So I love how this came to be, and I love how this conversation was going.
Yeah, I guess like another way to put the theme would be to just go with the flow of life.
Yeah.
It's never gonna come out how you plan, and if it did, it'd probably be very boring.
Yeah. Well, it is now time for you to recommend 3 people that you'll share this episode with whenever it comes out, that you think they'll be a good guest on the show, and if you think you can help me get them on the show.
Sure. The first person, I'm not sure if you've interviewed him yet. He's the developer of a game called Little Nemo.
Oh, I am
Dice Soft
planning
Games.
on talking to him sometime next year.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is like a wizard of a programmer.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's helped me out a lot. He's a really good mentor. Yeah, he's great. He's like an amazing artist, amazing programmer, very interesting. Another guy, his name is Mateo from Zoro Arts.
As in the pun of the Pokemon Zoroark and art? Or is it like Zoro as in the masked bandit?
Yeah, like the mask.
Oh, okay.
The masked bandit. Yeah, it's kind of a cool name.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's an indie developer. Yeah, I talk to him all the time. I'm actually going to talk to him this week about procedural generation because of
cool.
the plans that he has for his upcoming game. And I just want to pick his brain and see how he's doing it.
Yeah.
But he's really nice. I can send you his contact afterwards.
That'll be great.
And then I'm kind of blanking on the next one. I guess, have you talked to Milton Gusti?
I have not.
He was our level designer.
Oh, no, I have not.
He is a great human being. Like, first and foremost, he's like, he has every reason in the world to be super arrogant and condescending. But he is the nicest, chillest dude you'll ever talk to. I'm not sure if you're aware of his background, but he was a level designer for Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
Wow.
And he made AM2R.
Wow.
Like he made it himself. And yeah, I can't recommend him enough. He's amazing.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, we'll do what we can to get these people on the show. I really, really appreciate that. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, other than the fact that this has been a great talk, and yeah, this talk has been really good. I actually don't usually do these podcasts.
Yeah.
I just don't really put myself out there. So honestly, people probably don't even know I exist. But yeah, so I might have been a bit rusty, but I had a lot of fun with this talk, and I'd be down to do it again sometime in the future.
Yeah, man. Awesome. And I'm happy you had a good time too. Yeah, I really tried to make this as welcoming as possible for anybody. And I really want to thank you for the time you gave me out of your morning, out of my evening, to come do this and talk about you, to share your story, and I really, really do appreciate it. I'm so happy that I got to talk to you. So yeah, just thank you for doing this, and this has been amazing, and I will love to have you back on the show in the future for whatever reason, talk about more Bo or like anything, like if you want to talk about, I don't care. We can make it happen. Doesn't matter. And I definitely want to get more people from Bo on this show just because of how much I love this game, and I want to help support it in any way I can. So yeah, with all that being said, thank you so much, Trevor, for being on the show. This has been amazing.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I had a blast.
All right, that's all the time we have for today, guys. If you want to hear more from Trevor, be sure to check out squidshockstudios.com, and of course, check out Bo, Path of the Teal Lotus, available now on all platforms. Be sure to let us know what you think about this episode somewhere on the internet, and be sure to follow us on our socials and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Links to them are down below. Be sure to rate us 5 stars and leave a comment down below. We'll catch you on the next one.
Next time on The Delta Quest. Will Pike and Ruby manage to expose a massive political conspiracy, or will Zambo's unsolicited moss-based food reviews completely derail the briefing? Will Urzak successfully readjust to no longer being a dragon? And will Baron Relin talk his way out of treason with Olympic-level gaslighting? Find out next time on The Delta Quest.